Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host today, Bob Wagner, and we're so glad that you joined us today. And we have a wonderful show. We're going to talk about youth and youth at risk and also alternative education. So a great topic, and I know you're looking forward to hearing our guest speak. And I'd like to introduce to you now Daniel Santiago. He's with helping students and schools succeed. And Daniel, share with us about you and about your what you do and as you go out and talk to students and schools.
Well, it's both my honor and pleasure to be able to do what I do. Every time I share with people where I go, I always get the number one question, hey, what is it you do? And I always say, I help schools and students succeed. Mostly I help at-risk kids graduate from high schools, and I help the educators that work with them find strategies that really can reach and teach those youth at a level wherever they're at in their life stage. So it's truly a blessing to be able to do what I do.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
I've actually been in the education industry for about 10 years now, going on my 11th. And how I started in getting involved with youth, it actually came about, I was an at-risk youth. During my high school years, I had a lot of things that put me at risk, whether it was the lack of support, my dreams and desires took a different, unexpected direction, and I was very mobile. I had moved around about 8 times before I was even in middle school. By the time I got to high school, I had trouble just getting roots because of what happened growing up in my life. And so after that, I found myself in California, where I was born and raised, and moved to Arizona after a series of circumstances. And I got involved with music and the arts, and that's what I did when I was in LA in the entertainment industry. But when I moved to Arizona, something shifted, and I was given the opportunity to work with an education company called Pearson Education, which they gave me a start. I basically started as the director of first impressions, actually, and basically I was a receptionist. And my first corporate job, I pretty much learned about education and what educators do and what they did, and gave me an opportunity to just become aware of the importance and value of education. And then I got involved with alternative education, and that led me in contact with at-risk youth, which is the reason why we're here today.
Well, thank you for being our guest today. And the youth, what do you have ideas for, that they can make something of themselves?
Well, youth as a blanket topic is so broad. And really what it comes down to is you're looking at generations, from baby boomers to XY generation to now what we're in is the millennial generation. And these youth operate in a different world, something that even when I was in school was so different than what it was when it started. Kids, I like to say, kids come out of the womb pushing buttons. They don't know anything else besides technology and the advancements thereof. The problem is you have an education environment where typically it's antiquated in most areas of the country. So here you have kids who don't like being engaged in their education and learning process because they wonder, they scratch their head, they look at a textbook like this, it's an antiquated tool. So youth as a whole, whether they're at risk or advanced and brilliant, have various issues to deal with. They all have to deal with several issues. First of all, their identity. Who are they? As an individual, they start to go through this in middle school and start to uncover these things, and that's where they start to get in cliques and groups of people to find, am I loved? Am I accepted? Am I worthy to be a part of something bigger than just myself? And who am I, and what type of individuality do I bring to the table? So that's first and foremost. Second thing is, what direction am I headed in? And in years past, as education would say, okay, here are your core subjects, math, science, social studies, language arts, and you have to learn these certain things, and if you can pass a test, then you're great, you're good to go. But that's not reality. It's never been reality. It's formulated out of a Carnegie way of operating. Out of the industrial age, you just went along in this system. Nowadays, kids and youth have become so individualized that they really want to try to express themselves. So if you were to ever limit a youth or a young adult from trying to be and express themselves, they typically post resistance and come up with a series of, well, not so productive ways to cope with that environment. So your identity, your direction, and then third and most of all is, how am I going to make it in this world? How am I going to contribute? How am I going to put a roof over my head and food on my table after I leave my parents' protection or my guardian's protection or whatever that looks like?
Correct. That's right. How can you reach the youth? What does it take? And I know you're out and about, you know, talking to schools and youth. And how, as you know, a person, just normal person, how can we relate to the youth and reach them?
Well, you can never judge a book by its cover. You know, some kids have been labeled at risk and disruptive, bad children, but they're actually brilliant and they're bored. So the only thing to do is cut up, right? Others who have all of the intellectual capacity to be able to memorize content and articulate it either on paper or via speech, but don't have a lick of leadership skills. I wouldn't want them driving my car. So there's something else that really matters when it comes to youth. What it comes down to is giving them the ability to, as an individual dealing with this type of person, that's why I love talking to educators, because they try to work with them. In order to reach a youth, you really have to look at where are they coming from? What is the root cause of their behavior? If you can identify that and get them to open up to you, then you have more of an ability to make a difference and reach them where they're at. Think about it. This is the same thing that Jesus did when he was talking to the woman at the well. And he knew exactly where they were at emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. But if I just tell you where you're at and I say, you know what, you're going in the wrong direction, or you're a bad person, or, you know, none of that's going to work, because immediately you're going to be resistant and put up a wall. But if there's a technical term called the Socratic method, if I try to draw it out of you, then what I'm actually doing is educating you by being an educator. See, the root word of education is educo, which is a Latin word which means to draw out from within. So true educators can look at a student and say, can lock arms with them and say, hey, where are you at? What's going on? And show enough compassion, empathy, and courage to be able to really stand side by side with a youth, and regardless of what they're doing, regardless of their behavior, regardless of what their report card says, and say, what do you want?
That's great.